Hear ye, hear ye! The Parliament of Geeks shall now come to order!
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Parliament of Geeks, where we ask and answer one simple question. Be it dweeb, or be it scrub? Last time we did this, we had the misfortune of covering something that was good, but turned into a WTF in the form of Shibuya.
Which I rewatched Easy's review of it. He gave it an S. So we're not on the same page. Whoops.
It's a free country.
I dug the concept, but there was not enough to, we already discussed this.
Mm-hmm. It's a free country. He is free to be wrong. But before we even get into that, I am, as always, your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me are two of my good brothers. In the blue corner, we have our resident king of clotheslines, good brother Matty.
Yo.
I was gonna make a Lariato joke, but I needed to find something that rhymed with L in that regard.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Just announce the guy in the red corner so we can fight.
And in the red corner, the man of 1,000 runes, the CEO of Zadare Enterprises, and the bane of my fucking existence, good brother Xanatrix.
Do I have to job for Monk or job for you, Maddie?
Yes.
Good answer.
No, what? No, nope, no. What's probably going to happen is it's the last man standing in BJW or something like that. Light tubes and everything.
Oh, Jesus Christ. And I'm going to pull a Cowboy Brock and get a fucking forklift for the fucking ring. How do you top a tractor? Exploding ring with a forklift.
Look, we'll talk about it one day, but for those who aren't aware, if you think death matches in the States are gory self-mutilation, you have no idea how spoiled you are.
Oh, if you thought GCW goes hard, Japan looks at you and go, "You're cute."
Piranhas. That's all.
Yeah. That's an actual thing.
But
Yep.
before we get into that, it's time to revive a certain tradition. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our drinking anthem. School!
Scorn!
I love doing that.
Of course.
Not just because I'm Minnesotan or because of my heritage.
Though both play a factor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he'll get to do that every Sunday coming soon.
Yeah, we'll be covering that. We'll be covering that later this month, but it's going to be interesting. However, obviously that is not the focus tonight. But as we at the end when we finished up our look at Shibuya 15. In the weeks that we were doing that, I had set up a list. Some of it is my own entries, some of it is entries from the people here, and some of it is entries from friends of ours, as long as they met the criteria, i.e., with rare exception, no more than 13 episodes. Very
and there's some shit we want to cover that go way over, and yeah.
And the other thing was making at least a decent attempt that it's something that people could access, because I didn't want to repeat some of our earlier episodes where it's a really awesome work that is hard to access legally. Well, I'm not black and we've talked about the piracy thing, but I'd like to at least give people an option. So, anyways, I took all of those and I put it into Wheel of Names, and the one that we landed on was Seven Knights Revolution, which was one that was recommended to me when I was doing a bit of research. And all that I knew up until that point was it was an anime based on a mobile game. And given a previous dip into anime based on mobile games, I was cringing a bit.
Red flags were being raised.
Mostly because of the fact that, as you all know, we do not have a very kind opinion of mobile gaming.
Mobile games are cursed.
There are some very rare exceptions, but you either have gacha based bullshit, or you have more predatory strong arming forms of bullshit. Either way, bullshit.
And Seven Nights as a mobile game is no exception. They are a gacha.
Mm-hmm. And I know some people might say that certain gachas are more fair, but for me, it's a case of which is going to be more painful, getting kicked in the balls or punched in the balls.
Well, I don't know for what's more painful, but if it was Sex Ferguson's pick, punch him in the balls.
The point is, you're going to be on the floor in pain.
Yeah. Actually, I will admit, I played Wheel of Fortune with and that was a microtransaction hellhole that I'm like, yeah, I'm going to play that for a couple minutes and delete it.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a Plinko a game called based on The Price is Right, that Plinko, called Plinko Pegs. No ads, no nothing, just a simple click and play and be happy in your head place kind of game.
Yeah.
It is still installed on my phone.
I would have liked to recommend God of Blades when it comes to decent mobile games, but you can't get it aside from an Amazon link I'm not even sure even works.
It does. I tried it.
Okay. In that case, go grab it. It's like $10. It's honestly worth it. There's a reason why I keep referencing God of Blades in some of my projects.
It's one of the few.
So, but even with that bit of cringe, we approach these things with an open mind. And truth be told, it's not as extreme as Ghost Stories, but I was kind of reminded of that because the story that we get and then we ended up looking at the story and the world of Seven Nights as far as the mobile games. There's not much connective tissue to go on.
They literally, like from what I've read, they literally took the bare minimum of what they found character-wise on the mobile game and went, "We got this. We got this."
Yeah. The majority of the cast is is anime exclusive.
They are original characters based on the game concept.
And only a few of the actual legendary heroes are from the game.
Mm-hmm.
Jave, Vanessa, a couple of others.
Everything else, if you don't want to you don't want to play the game, you need not worry.
Yeah.
They will not cut. They give you the basic. They got the basics and they built an entire fucking world for the anime.
Mm-hmm. In fact, according to the wiki, the only characters who are not anime exclusives were Rachel Agni, Spike, Vanessa, Jave, and Chris.
Yep, those 5 heroes are actually from the game.
Everybody else is anime exclusive.
Which means that Genius and Eunomia don't exist.
Mm-hmm. This particular project was written by Ukyo Kodachi, who has his signature on his Wikipedia page. And as far as he has mostly done screenwriting work and a few bits of manga work. He was responsible up until 2020 as one of the writers for Boruto, as well as something called Infinite T-Force, which is a 3D CG anime.
Infinity Force is the revitalization of the initial Infinity Force from I believe Tsuburaya.
Yeah.
Or no, Tatsunoko, excuse me. Tatsunoko. It features people like the original Tekka Man, the original Kashern, Gotcha Man, Polymar.
Mm-hmm.
It's based off of the original 1970s crossovers.
Yeah, and I want to correct myself. He wrote the manga Arc to the Future. When it comes to novels, he has had a few under his belt. Apparently writing the story for Macross the Ride or Macross R, Queensblade Rebellion, some of Macross Frontier, and Akito the Exiled for Code Geass. He wrote the novelization of that.
And it's funny you brought up Tekka Man. I actually got Techno Man, which is basically the Techno Man Blade on DVD on yesterday when I went to a geek event.
Well, Tekka Man Blade is different than Tekka Man.
Oh yeah. They're one's old school. One is a quote a revival unquote.
Yeah,
of sorts.
Yeah. As far as he's had a handful of credited screenwritings, including 2 Fate Grand Order projects, Babylonia and Camelot. So we have him to thank for the nicest version of Gilgamesh we've ever seen.
Yeah,
pretty much.
We needed that version though, so
yeah.
He's also responsible for the Gunslinger Stratos animation, which I haven't seen. He was responsible for the Chaos Dragon in 2015, which I haven't seen. As well as the anime as well as some individual episodes in the anime adaptation of Danganronpa 3.
Danganronpa. I love Danganronpa. Good stuff.
He only has 2 video game credits: Fate Extella Link and Macross 30. So he's
all over the place, but it's in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a wide and eclectic collection.
It's a wide variety of different things.
Yeah, I'd say the thing that he's the most known for is regarding Boruto.
Mm-hmm.
I don't exactly know why he stepped away and why Kishimoto took over the role full time instead of it being a collaborative project between the two.
Maybe Kodachi wanted to go do other things.
That's certainly a possibility.
I'd also like to point out that with a name like that, I have one question for him. Which cursed spring did he fall into?
But the animation was handled by Liden Films, who they're headquartered in Suginami, but they also have studios in Kyoto and Osaka. They've got a lot more to their name.
Yes, Liden Films has been around a while.
Including that upcoming Rurouni Kenshin project.
Mm-hmm.
They were also responsible for Cells at Work Code Black.
Mm-hmm. Just some other ones. They helped with the 2016 Berserk.
Mm-hmm.
And they were part of the cooperation with others. They've also done Heroic Legend of Arslan, Yamada-kun and the Seven Witches, Terraform Mars Revenge. That one's a deep cut.
Yeah.
Boarding School Juliet.
Mm-hmm.
Magical Senpai. And then one that I really loved, that I said showed an improvement of their understanding of 3D from the time of Berserk, Other Side Picnic, or Urasekai Picnic. The 3D in Urasekai Picnic is phenomenal compared to what we saw in 2016's Berserk. So Liden Films really improved their 3D modeling and compositing. They also covered Tokyo Revengers and even did the most recent branch of Sayuki Reload. And they're also doing some of the more recent Digikarat stuff.
Uh, and of course, of course, the point is that they've been around. They've done a lot of stuff for a studio that's only been that established themselves in 2013.
Yep, 10 years, and they've done a lot of good stuff, and they've improved. Like every time they have a show, they get better and better from what I've seen. Because everybody remembers how much I have a problem with 2016's Berserk.
We all do.
But
I don't, but I'm not going to ask because I assume it was shit.
The 3D was really stilted and bad.
Shit. Okay.
I'll put it that way. But I am someone who then also goes, but you should fucking watch Urasekai Picnic. That shit's great. Which also might be one that we might want to consider for the Parliament. It's only 12 episodes, Monk.
Type it out, and I'll put it in the wheel when the time comes.
Okay. I'll throw that in the Parliament.
But I will admit that one of the reasons why I wanted to at least give Seven Knights a chance is, well, for one, that's what the wheel said, and we're not going to back off just because of our reservations. But also, giving me fantasy anime is like giving water to a starving man in the desert. A proper fantasy anime, isekai doesn't count.
Or giving cocaine to any one of Dave Chappelle's characters.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Show me your titties.
Show me fair.
But
and so on.
But in addition to that, I will always have a soft spot for styles of fantasy storytelling that aren't trying to go for the medieval approach strictly, and it's easier to do that in Japan than it is in Europe.
It was a much more Victorian steam engine aesthetic,
and that kind of Victorian magipunk is an approach that I will always have a soft spot for.
We love magipunk around here.
Mm-hmm. Especially given my growing appreciation for pike and shot era uniforms. I would say Napoleonic era uniforms, but I'm too tall for that.
No, you're not. You could have been one of his bodyguards. The only reason everybody thought he was short was because he surrounded himself by taller men.
Mm-hmm.
It prevented assassination.
Meat shield.
Basically.
Heavily armored meat shield, but meat shield.
Mm-hmm. But with that in mind, I think this is as good a time as any to kind of go into the setup. And the first, I will admit that what I ended up liking is the first thing that we end up seeing is essentially a lullaby for the dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a mysterious girl who is singing in the middle of a burning and burnt out village with a bunch of dead people around her.
Yep.
For those who have not seen the show, think that village in Legend of Vox Machina after a dragon just went and pretty much offed it.
Mm-hmm.
That.
And
except with a lot more stone. There was a lot of stone in this one.
And in the process introducing us to two of the main heroines that we'd be seeing throughout, Faria and Ellen.
The heroic student council president and the woman who just goes with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
And I laugh. You think, oh, that she goes with the flow. Okay, she's chill. Yeah.
About that, we'll talk about that later.
Oh yeah, about that. Yeah.
And they were going to investigate this town, and but by the time they got there, it had already been wiped out. And arriving at a town nearby, Ule Village, they only find one survivor.
A boy named Nemo.
And
And he's not in his pajamas.
Mhm.
Don't worry.
No. But because of the green bits in his hair, which is kind of hard to see in the image that Shades had done. Thank you for that, Shades. I know. It was
And his voice actor. And his voice actor.
Daiki Yamashita.
We'll get to that.
This boy is all but not Deku.
He doesn't have as much green in it. He has more black or brownish than green in his hair, but he's voiced by Daiki Yamashita, so the Deku.
You may as well call him not Deku. You may as well call him not Deku.
But
But has a lot of the same values.
Mm-hmm. And this is also where ostensibly Nemo was going to be transferring over to Grand Seed Academy, and just ended up in the wrong place at the very wrong time. Especially since the monsters are what's referred to as physis, which I think could be best to be described as Chaos Spawn meets zombies.
They're undead, trying to tear apart the world.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
And you could get your head bitten off, and death won't be the end for you. You'll just turn into one of them.
Yeah. It's like a zombie bite, but worse.
Yeah, and the reason I make the Chaos Spawn comparison is because they do not look like what you would expect a zombie to look like.
Yeah. There's a lot of Cronenberg here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of body horror. A lot of body horror by the end of the
It
whole
doesn't
thing.
go. We're not going full The Fly, but we're not far off.
I don't know. I'd consider the final boss almost that point.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get there. We'll get there.
But after Faria rescues him, that's where we get the explanation about the Seven Knights and how they're essentially heroes of the past who are bonded to these individuals.
To people who are considered worthy and eligible.
Mm-hmm. And even though the transformation trinket is a card, I can't make the card game joke.
I mean, it's a metal placard that is about playing card size. Yeah. I also have to note right here and right now, Seven Knights is a bit of a misnomer because they aren't.
No.
But
They're
we'll get to
barely
that.
6.
No, they're more than 7.
Yeah.
It's a nod to the original Seven Knights, per the story.
The story is that those 7 were the ones who a long time ago saved the world from a god named Nestra.
Yep.
And they're essentially give the souls of those knights were preserved by the goddess, who grants it to the people who are considered worthy. So in that regard, you could say that the 7 knights are Einherjar.
Or, Monk, I'm gonna make I have to make the comparison when we get to it.
Mm-hmm.
You could also say that they're magical girls, or even Magi Knights.
But
I'm not wrong.
think.
Oh
things in
God! I was about to I was gonna say not funny that joke, but Jesus, nice recovery.
But just because they had managed to escape on the train doesn't mean the fight is over, because a bigger physis, the name of the monsters, as I mentioned, ends up attacking the train, and you know how if you've played a train level in the original Blood, you know how this ends.
Alternatively, if you've ever watched any of our Geek Watch or other particular properties, you know how much we derail.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
But I would like to make a side note here that Physis is both the name of the beings and the name of the organization creating them.
Yeah, basically the monsters of the week, sort of, and the faction that we are fighting here.
Yeah.
The antagonists, so to speak.
And even though Faria isn't able to stop it and asks Nemo to run, he refuses.
Unfortunately, no one is able to suplex the train.
No.
There was no Sabin around. We couldn't do it.
Nope.
But he ends up getting transported to a place called the Garden of Saras, the aforementioned goddess, and asks for the power to save Faria. The result is getting his own hero, one whose name isn't mentioned until much later, but we ended up making a few jokes because of who he's voiced by.
He is voiced by Takahiro Sakurai, aka the Japanese voice for Cloud Strife.
Mm-hmm.
And this ties into some later jokes about another hero voiced by another famous voice actor who breaks microphones.
Yeah. But the thing that's a bit odd is that his transformation, or succession as it's called, is incomplete and he's only able to transform his arm. On the plus side, he gets a hook shot.
A hook shot that's also a sword.
Mm-hmm.
And also has a sword on the side of the arm. Also, I'd like to mention at this point that when the characters transform, they shout out Succession, there's a flash of light, and then they're in their hero forms. And usually they're holding their cards as they do so. This makes every one of the 7 Knights Kamen Rider Decade. Kamen Ride!
Although some would argue that what disqualifies this from being a Magical Girl or the like series is how quick the transformation is. You don't have a 30-second transformation sequence.
They don't fuck around. It's flash, poof, new suit, and the female protag, long hair.
Most of the female protags long hair. Ellen's the only one with short that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, well, actually, they go from buttoned up professional to long hair and flowing.
Yeah.
Which we see in Downtime. She actually has that same long hair in the same flowing way when she's not got her hair pinned up for official reasons.
The transform state is meant to be a kind of halfway point between the original hero and their own appearance.
Yep, they get the armor and weapons, and sometimes their eyes or hair change a little bit. We know that when Nemo gets further among his transformation, and no, that's not a spoiler. You know that with an incomplete transformation, there's eventually a complete transformation. His hair droops over one eye, just like his unknown hero's does,
mm-hmm.
making him look even more taciturn.
Yeah, but episode 1 is basically meant to establish the ground rules, because it's something that you have. I know some people roll their eyes about exposition, but you have to have that level of it in something like this, because the further you go away from what is considered normal in a story, the more that you're gonna have to explain.
Yep. You have to establish your world if your world is further from the real world, and the further along you go, the more explanation has to be done.
Yeah. The second episode is kind of resetting the board a bit, because then first off we get to see Grand Seed, which I love the look of the place.
Yeah, and the first episode is literally, here's the world, and then the second episode is, okay, let's dive a little deeper.
Mm-hmm. But he ends up meeting the student council, which he's now a part of, being that he has one of the 7 knights.
Yeah.
Even though,
Which is now it's knight number 777 arm bar. Technically.
that works on multiple levels.
Right?
But we end up meeting several of the others. But the one who's the most important for this episode is Joe.
The Jim Bro.
Yep.
Jim Bro Joe.
Jim Bro Joe, whose his hero is named Spike. And you think somebody as hot-blooded as Joe would have a fire-based type of spirit.
They had
and his hero's hair is red.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're thinking, oh, this is the hothead. Burn it all down. Nope. Ice powers. Like you do.
Nope.
That's a nice twist.
Mm-hmm.
Snowfield Slash.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not?
But by this time he had come back because he somehow managed to take a physis-infected dragon and freeze it solid.
He put it on ice.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what killed the dragons? Ices.
The idea was we capture it, we bring it back for study. Except if
to turn it into alchemy parts, because he did take it to the alchemy club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Faria has Joe take Nemo on a tour of the place,
which Joe is a little bit indignant about.
Mostly because he probably
you're not swole enough.
No.
Well, that and nobody likes to be the babysitter.
Yep.
No. Now look at this guy with the girly man with the small arms. What the hell is wrong with you?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I don't know why I went Arnold about that one, but what the fuck?
But
we are here to pump you up.
There we go. That's a better reference.
Had to do that.
My name is Hans, and this is Franz, and we are going to pump you up. There you go.
Yeah.
Rails, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there was also the whole thing of Gale's asking Nemo to take a vial with elf medicine to the academy to the alchemy research end of the school.
Yep.
And
we meet a wonderful pigtailed glasses girl named Claire,
who really likes certain elves.
A certain elf, specifically.
Yeah.
Another one of the 7 knights.
Well, by the way, it would have been a good idea to not show her Vaxel, Dan. Just saying.
But we also end up meeting Sophidia in the process, who is going to be very important later, and
Monk? Yeah, Monk. For now, the obvious. She is the librarian of. She's the head librarian. She's one of the teachers and all that stuff. The one thing you need to remember, though, well.
Bosoms, melons, milk factories, busts, fun bags, knockers, ballistics, boobies, jugs, nipples, jubblies, stonking great tits.
She's got to be at least a J cup.
Justice.
Sweet.
D cups, full of justice.
Aha. This is literally, look, we know that a lot of these are students who are looking for fan service, so this librarian brought to you by tits. Why not?
Yeah. But a key lesson that Joe apparently didn't learn is when you're trying to capture something, make sure that it is properly secured.
Or at the very least, go with Zombieland. Double tap, motherfucker.
Because apparently that ice wasn't thick enough, and the fight for the episode is the dragon breaking out.
Breaks out of the compounding area the storage and compounding area of the Alchemy Guild, and it's up to Joe to fight. And he tells Nemo to run again. Everybody's telling Nemo to run.
Most likely because they don't see Nemo as somebody who can hold his own.
Well, and it's kind of true. They asked him if he'd talked with his hero, and he hadn't been able to. He doesn't know his hero's name, and he isn't able to transform at will yet.
Yet being the operative word here.
But there is a revelation where Faria admits that she's keeping an eye on Nemo, which is why she had him brought into the dorms, because there's a bit of fear when it comes to his power.
Mm-hmm. And when we say brought into the dorms, we mean specifically brought into the dorms where Faria and Ellen live.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the three of them.
But in episode 3, we learned a few things early on. First off, the increased physics activity has allowed Grancy to get more funding. Second, Nemo ends up getting some strange dreams, and third, I think it was around this point that we learned something about Faria's cooking. She
is officially the younger form of Mako Mankan Shoku's Mon. All she can cook is crockets.
Anytime she tries to cook anything else, she fucks up.
The only thing she can cook? Croquettes.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, fried mashed potatoes. Deep fried.
Which is delicious.
It is. It's just the one thing she can actually properly cook.
Yeah.
Is there anything else for her? She rolls a 1, and it's cereal that blows up. Literally Homer Simpson.
Let me put it this way. She manages to burn water.
I know some of you are thinking, how the fuck do you do that? You find a way.
Very carefully.
But when she brings out the croquettes, everybody groans but Nemo. And I know this is a well-worn cliche, but it's a cliche that works, damn it. Of everybody scared of the leading lady's cooking, except for one person.
Well, and in this case, it's not that they were scared of her cooking, because they at least know that these are good. It's just that they've had it so many times. they can only eat so much. Mm-hmm. Of course, Nemo comes away with the classic cliche, I could eat these all day.
Be careful what you wish for.
He totally would too.
Yeah, but episode 3 is where we end up learning one particular downside, and the reason why you have to be careful when transforming. Because during an expedition to an island that was attacked by Physis, things ended up going south, and this is a particular focus. The one who particularly gets focused on this one is Gildon.
Prince Gildon.
Yeah, our cat boy.
Spoiler would be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
A cat boy who could be considered the little brother to Joe's big brother.
They have that dynamic.
Yes, they do. But if you end up running too low on mana, that you could run the risk of what's known as possession, i.e. the god of destruction trying to take control of you.
And they do so through your heroic spirit.
Mm-hmm. And once that happens, you essentially turn into a monster. Gareth.
That again.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that again. Kind of looks like your heroic spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Low on mana, you get possessed, and the normal way is off with his head.
which Gareth and Joe figure that's what they have to do. Nemo has a different idea and manages to get Gildan to come back to his senses.
And then tears him out, literally.
Now, granted, Nemo ended up exerting too much and ended up going unconscious.
But at least he didn't get possessed.
But Faria in the next episode tries to play nurse because he had been out of it for a full day.
Yep, and Gildan was healed, at least for the most part.
But in the meantime, this is where we start to get... Episode 4 is where we start to get the first seeds of one of the big mysteries that is going to be that drives a lot of the plot. That being, I smell a rat.
Someone is sus. I'm relevant. I'm a relevant motherfucker. Among Us was a couple years ago still.
Among Us is actually still played today. And still pretty popular on Twitch.
Yeah.
And I still get either fucking die or fucking suck at as the imposter. Yay! Comedy.
Well, I'm bad at both because nobody trusts me who knows me.
To be fair, you're a DM as well, so people are bred not to trust the DM.
But I get kicked out very quickly.
Yeah.
But one of the big things that's been hinted at a bunch of times is that despite everything, Nemo can't communicate with his hero at will like everyone else can.
Yeah.
And he looks at this as like,
I'll take bull for 200.
that's pretty much what he's thinking. He's like, well, I want to talk to my guy. Okay, it's not overt, but it's there.
And he does go to the library to ask Sophia about his hero, which doesn't result in much. In fact, apparently his hero isn't in the records.
Yep. But then we get the hijinks with the cat.
Because apparently they're not allowed to have a cat, but she snuck one in anyways. So they have to... And when that cat got out, they had to go through some hijinks to pretend that the cat wasn't there and go through some very dangerous close calls. You know how this kind of thing goes.
The normal stuff.
The usual.
Yeah. It doesn't exactly help that the two people that they had to pretend normalcy with are the two most straight-laced people in the whole school.
Shirley. Yep. Shirley is the head of the disciplinary board.
Yep.
And in another universe, she'd probably walk around with a riding crop.
No, Monk. Remember, in another universe, she already flies around with a marching band.
Or is the other one wearing the Senketsu?
Yeah.
No, she's not Ryuko. She's definitely Nonon.
But one of the big mysteries is apparently somebody's been doing a little blood sucking in the academy, and it's been
putting the disciplinary students specifically into near coma.
And this is also the first instance of a pattern that this anime shows throughout. That being the nature of red herrings, because it's later when it's later revealed that Shirley is a vampire.
Specifically when they catch her sucking on Ellen's neck.
Mm-hmm. And people put two and two together and think that she's been the one who's been drinking from other students.
Yep. It was before they find her though, and while they're looking for the culprit, Nemo asks Shirley if he can help. Shirley says, "I don't really trust you, but okay." And then later, Nemo asks another friend or another person who happens to be a friend of Shirley's and also a member of the disciplinary committee, Mina, to help him on the search.
Mm-hmm.
And that when they go on the search, they eventually go into the woods and find Shirley sucking down on Ellen's neck. And while Mina freaks out, understandably, because she didn't think that Shirley was the vampire, she just said it had been a rumor that she had heard that she didn't believe in. Nemo's like, "Wait, I want to hear your story," and chases after her.
Yeah, and because of all that, it can be a very logical conclusion to think Shirley's the one who's been behind the attacks, when in reality, it was Mina.
And I called that. I called that as soon as she said her name was Mina, and we were dealing with vampires.
Yeah, that was a bit of overplaying the hand, but I do admit I like how they set up the red herring.
I do too, but anyone who has any amount of genre savviness, Mina, vampires, what is this, a Dracula story?
Vampires.
But,
And of course, the healer goes with the flow.
But
yeah,
the revelation, the action. First off, there's essentially two revelations. This could be considered a double turn in a sense. First off, yes, Shirley is a vampire.
Yes.
But and she comes from a family of vampires, but they're pacifistic vampires.
They aren't predatory. They try to live in harmony and they try not to kill anybody. In fact,
because they know those who are predatory, the reputation.
Mm-hmm. In fact, she even explains that the only person she really drinks from is Ellen because Ellen understands.
Mm-hmm.
And she also explains that her entire family was eventually persecuted and killed besides herself. We also find out that vampires are weak to fire, but ironically, and yes, this is true irony, people, this is not coincidence at this point, ironically, the hero Shirley has, whose name is Rachel Agni, if anyone knows anything about Vedic gods, is fire powers.
Mm-hmm.
She's afraid of her own powers, and she's afraid of friendship, because that is a warmth that is too akin to fire at a metaphorical level for her.
Although some people might cry foul at the fact that she's able to walk around in daylight.
Well, this is a different world. Their vampires aren't the same as our vampires. Fuck off, people.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Twilight fucking sucks.
I wasn't even gonna go with that, but
no, but you know what? We need. I'm the comic relief. People need a constant reminder that even in 2022, Twilight fucking sucks. And I can hear the shades in the background telling me, "Vampires don't freaking struggle."
The only reason I'm not getting on you harder for that is the fact that as someone who has ancestry in both the British Isles and in Scandinavia, we know how to hold a grudge. I will fight you as my father fought your father, as my grandfather fought your grandfather, all the way back 300 years ago, because you stole sheep from me. It doesn't matter if it was 300 years ago. Give me my shit back.
Yeah.
Well, your shit's buried over there. You're probably gonna get like a pile of nothing, though.
I'm just saying, there's a reason why we have the Book of Grudges.
Oh, absolutely.
But we find out as Nemo runs off with Shirley and talks it over with her and says he doesn't want to fight her. Like, they're both transformed. He's actually fully transformed at this point.
Mm-hmm.
which means he has his full armor and the emo hair going on and everything. He's consistently and constantly trying to convince her that he's not trying to hurt her. He wants to be her friend. And so they can reconcile just as they see some flying physicists carrying off the weakened Ellen. And they chase after to an abandoned cathedral on the grounds. Or an abandoned church, I guess would be a better way to say it. It's not
Church, cathedral, same.
It's not quite. It's not quite large enough to be a cathedral. Cathedrals are much more.
It's a
large
place
in
of
size.
worship, and it's also a place where priests did horrible shit. Same fucking difference.
And this is actually when Mina is revealed as the real antagonist, and also as another vampire,
And a mole for physis.
and a mole for physis. Yes,
Her
she
reason-
also tried. Her reasonings. Go ahead.
Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
Spoiler warning, it won't be the last time we use that bit.
Or the other one, to be fair.
But her reasoning is she believes that through physis they'll be able to create a world where vampires are not persecuted.
By killing off all humans.
So we need the alien warm button.
Yeah.
Press X to doubt.
Yup.
But in the process of this, Shirley is able to regain her conviction, and we've established that vampires are weak to fire. Time to shoot that particular Chekhov's gun.
Which is actually a really good point, because it's not only Shirley finding her conviction, but starting to believe in the friendship she has. And Rachel Agnew specifically tells her, go ahead, embrace and master those flames. Mm-hmm. So she fights with Mina using her fire powers and rapier for a while, with Nemo trying to help her, but they're both doing pretty poorly because Mina is Physis spawn and can turn her arm into a giant ugly thing after Nemo cuts it off. And Rachel is like, you need to kill her, I'll hold her down, and covers them both in fire. Mm-hmm. And this is where we get the coolest upgrade.
Yeah.
Nemo's little spike sword arm inverts itself a bit and becomes a giant fucking cannon called the Legis Breaker.
Because bitches love cannons.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. And for any of you who are connecting two and two, Legis Breaker would be faux Latin for lawbreaker, so yeah. It breaks the laws of life.
Breaks the laws of fucking physics that freaking cannon does.
It's this series' answer to the BFG.
Yep.
Big bada fucking boom of a gun. Jesus Christ.
And he blasts a hole the size of a fucking melon straight through Mina.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, for those Shirley, yeah.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
Getting out of the way now.
Yeah, but she doesn't even with the friendship that she now has with Nemo, she does end up taking a sample and remarks that his blood is weird.
Weird, but also still tastes good.
Mm-hmm.
And also seems to be growing a crush on him. So now we've got a love triangle.
Yeah, and this is where we get to the festival episode.
Oh, yeah.
We finally get to a school festival episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Gareth is trying to find out about the old library because a betrayer of the Seven Knights allegedly did something terrible there for Physis and set up some sort of curse.
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks that this might have something to do with the Physis infiltration that they have on campus. And while he is looking for clues, Claire, the girl from the alchemy department who likes him,
And that Wee really likes him to the point that he's not
Notice me,
comfortable.
senpai!
He is not comfortable going into the alchemy lab because of her.
But it's not for the reasons people are thinking. He feels he's taking advantage of her just by existing, basically. He feels very, very guilty for her feelings.
He knows he's fucking hot, but knows this could go way wrong, and says no. He wants to nope out, and yeah, there are men who go, well, dude, tap it. I'm like, dude, these are children, still.
I mean, they're near adults. They're like 15 and 16.
Let's put it this way: he knows it's wrong until they're both in the adult age.
That's not even the issue, though. He has no real feelings, so he feels like he's cheating her. He feels like he's cheating her of her own feelings. He even says as much when she finally asks Nemo and Faria about inviting him to the dance at the festival, because there's one of those festival traditions. If you dance with a person at the festival, you'll be together forever, or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. You know, which also leads to the love triangle. Both Shirley and Faria wondering who's going to ask first out of the two of them, because it's the girl asking the boy. Jerry. Well, it's basically a Sadie Hawkins dance.
I'm not even going to ask if I'm wrong. I know I'm right.
But you have a classic problem with Nemo in the sense that he's too nice for his own good, and
also a bit oblivious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, there's a point. My favorite point in the episode where Shirley talks to him and asks him if he wants to go to the dance, and he says he'd have to consider it. And Joe and Gildan are there, and they're like, "What's going on between you and Shirley?" He's like, We shared a moment together." They're like, what? Give us the details. He's like, "I think that's supposed to be a secret," only misleading them further.
I think I ended up going into a dude. That's not helping.
Yes, that's a dude that's not helping moment if ever there was one.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, Claire does finally build up the courage to ask Gareth to go to the dance. And she even hangs a concession on it. She's like, "I will help you to find anything about the old school and what's going on, and what could have happened with this physis infiltration. And I just want you to go to have a dance with me tonight." And he says yes. And this is the part where he legitimately says to himself out loud that he knows he's using her. And he feels bad about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so she goes off to the old library. And then we have more hijinks with the rest of the group and their cafe that they're running, even though they said they didn't want to run a cafe for the festival. Which, of course, results in more triangle hijinks between Faria, Nemo, and Shirley, until Shirley and Nemo are talking alone on a veranda. And Nemo's like, "Are you sure it's really me you want to ask? Or do you want to ask Ellen? Because Ellen seems to be awfully important to you." Mm-hmm. And so, for those of you wishing for your Hoye, here it is. Because Shirley does go and ask Ellen.
Mm-hmm. And one would think those of us in the more genre savvy end of the spectrum, whenever there's a school festival or a beach episode, it's always a calm before the storm. And this is no exception, because Claire does manage to find the old library and finds a compartment in it. And within that compartment, she finds a very strange book.
Glowing with malevolent purplish energy.
Mm-hmm.
That opens in front of her, there's a flash of light, and then we cut to the festival dance. And Gareth is leaning against a column, looking a little worried because Claire isn't there yet. But she shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And they're dancing. And she's super happy. She's almost shining and sparkling. And then she's literally shining and sparkling as she turns to fucking crystal, cries tears of blood, and crumbles to nothing!
And fucking dies. And for those wondering, no, wait. You can revive her, get it? No. She is dead.
We all three of us.
D-E-A-D capital dead.
All three of us, the moment this happened, there was a good 30 seconds of silence.
Mm-hmm. Because I knew that they were going to find a way to twist the knife. Just
you
knowing
didn't expect
to
cut this deep.
No.
I was like, fucking kidney stab if ever I felt one, and I have felt one.
But like I said, this is effectively the halfway point, and this is the shit's getting real kind of thing. And one would think, wait, isn't Ellen's spirit a bit of a healer? Not exactly. I'd say that her hero Vanessa has far more in common with the kind of healing that Orihime could do in Bleach or Josuke Higashikata in JoJo.
Mm-hmm.
She's not really healing; she's reversing time, which is the actual focus of her abilities.
Though we don't learn that till much later.
Although it's not exactly subtle with the whole clock thing.
Well, the clock thing that you don't see except in the opening. Mm-hmm. The opening spoils what her powers really are, but
yeah, technically.
But I can't really fault this series specifically for that, because
no, it happens in all series. Yeah, really.
It's not just a problem in series; it's a problem even in film. Because how many times have we seen a film that spoils a major moment in the fucking trailer?
Gotta show your best parts, Monk. Sometimes that means spoiling the best part.
Regardless, Gareth he's obviously I know we joked about Shirley being kind of straight-laced, but the most stiff-necked or straight-laced of the bunch is Gareth, who
with his hero, the dark hero or the dark ruler, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Batman. Wait, I'm not Batman.
No, he's Dragon Batman, apparently.
Dark Dragon Man? That makes two dragons on the team, though, because you've got Dragon Guardian Jave and Dark Ruler Chris. I think it's just dragon-themed armor, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, there's a plan for an all-out offensive on a Physis facility under the Burgo volcano, where Physis was previously defeated by Eunomia.
Yep. And the island that they had previously saved had something on it called a silver hourglass, a very giant hourglass in the middle of its facility. And it's revealed here that the silver hourglasses are how the goddess Celis is keeping the world together after Physis and their dark goddess Nestra tried to destroy the world. Mm-hmm. And these different broken hourglasses are actually filtering mana to the volcano.
And while the offensive begins proper with the front line being Joe and Gildan, while Nemo, Faria, Eren, and Shirley are headed straight into the base, basically pulling a classic pincer maneuver.
Yeah, but Gareth doesn't partake because he's still investigating the old library.
Mm-hmm.
And he figures, hey, let me stay behind in case someone tries to some shit tries to hit the fan.
Yeah. And this is where we get another bit of escalation, because when they enter an area that's designed to create homunculi, they end up meeting evil heroes. Rada, yep. Castor, and Pollux.
which are all names from mythology people should know, especially Castor and Pollux.
Yep.
And they also have the power of succession with other heroic spirits, but their succession is fully under their control, they claim. Instead of fighting alongside their heroes, they chain their heroes to them and extract the power from them.
There's also the fact that they can willingly initiate possession
And not be turned into giant monsters.
No, just turned into souped-up versions of themselves. They
Yep.
refer to themselves as the Sons of Destruction.
Yep.
But as the fight ends up continuing, even though they've been doing this whole willing possession, for one of them it starts going haywire. I.e., yeah, they can willingly control possession to a point.
Yep, for a while. And then Castor and Pollux both start turning into monstrosities, and Rada, who at this point was starting to have doubts and was standing behind, was able to more effectively fight her possession. Didn't turn into a monster, and in fact was left to Nemo to deal with after Castor was killed by his possession going so haywire he exploded into meaty bits. And Pollux ran away to try and get help from their leader, Ami Germain, the alleged leader of Physis.
But in the one-on-one with Nemo and Rita, he implies that the two of them are not that different. He doesn't outright say it, but this is where there's the revelation that Nemo isn't human. He's a homunculus.
Dun dun dun.
But that he made choices to escape the path that was chosen for him, and he's like, you can do it too. It doesn't matter that you've been guided along this path. Take the next step yourself. And at that point, her heroic spirit Irene is like, okay, yeah, because Nemo's basically beaten her down at that point. It's like, come on, you can change too. And she finally gets to talk to Irene, and Irene's like, sure, let's bond.
Yeah.
She went, sup, fight. Yep, let's go.
Whereas Pollux finally gets to Germain, is like, please help me, I'm turning into a monster. And Germain's like, nah, and kills him.
No, he went. No, the way it would work, I believe, Monk, you're going to appreciate this. He goes, I'm hurt, I'm dying, help me! And Germain whispered in his ear, went, no.
Oh, God. Rorschach.
Yeah.
The Germain is also villainously monologuing this entire time because, well, he is a villain. And essentially
he's not just a villain, he's a villain priest, which is even worse.
Oh god, it's not a villain monologue, it's a villain sermon. No! But he reveals that the Sons of Destruction are actually, he said that they all are like, but you said that we would be the most powerful. He said, whichever of you survived. And he's like, none of you are the real Sons of Destruction. I can see the real one. They're on their way now. It'll be just like the prophecy foretold. And then at that point, after Pollux is killed and he's monologuing, Shirley and Faria show up to fight him. But he doesn't have the power of God and anime on his side. He instead, all them broken silver hourglasses, time powers, yo.
Yeah.
So any damage to his body, he can reverse.
And he has like ridiculously good casting powers as well, so he's like constantly throwing spells and shit at them.
Yeah. And while at the same time Gareth is is dealing with physicists near the old library and ends up meeting up with Sophidia,
who helped him.
Good.
Who helped him?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And they find this another secret book within the old library, and also discover something about Nemo.
Mm-hmm. And while Nemo and Rita arrive to help in the fight against Germain, and a lot of the physicist monsters outside the volcano have been taken down to prep for a ritual that Aaron had instructed. A very idiot-proof ritual of, see this Stonehenge-like place here? Yeah, put this hourglass there. But Germain has the revelation in his eyes that Nemo is the true son of destruction, and that everyone else was just pawns.
They were all made to feed Nemo so he would become stronger.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the poison jar, or the goo jar for those of you who like wuxia.
Mm-hmm.
Throw all the poisonous things inside, poisonous and venomous things inside. Whichever most poisonous or venomous thing comes out in the end is the most poisonous or venomous.
Also, clones!
But Germain tries to steal Nemo's life force in order to turn him into the Son of Destruction. One of his arms ends up partially transformed in the process of this.
But this is where Ellen shows up. Finally manifests Vanessa, which she hasn't been doing the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, because if she did, she could die.
And she uses her powers to literally stop time, which nullifies his powers with the silver hourglasses. She takes it away from him.
Mm-hmm.
And once that's all done, and she's also restored life force to Nemo by reversing it back into him, she kind of collapses, and Shirley panics and takes her out of the line of fire. Whereas Nemo, Faria, and Rita all fight Germain, and at the end we get another Legis Breaker, but this Legis Breaker, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
The hole is now the size of a semi-Mack truck.
Yeah, it's a little more than that. The cannon extends out, instead of just being like a few inches beyond his arm, to like a couple feet beyond his arm.
Mm-hmm.
And
so the hole's bigger than Vince McMahon's ego.
There you go. That's a good one.
It's pretty fucking big.
Yeah, and he does this because he's pushing the Legis Breaker to its breaking point, essentially, because Germain put up a very, very sturdy and thick magical shield.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nemo at this point is like, I'm going to kill you because you're the bad guy and you're causing all these bad things to happen, and I'm gonna make sure the job is done. And he shoots this giant fuck you wave motion cannon, because it's a fucking wave motion cannon out.
At this point it is, yeah.
Erases the motherfucker, cuts through the walls of the mountain, pulls his arm up from all that backwards force, because yes, light has
recoil. At that point,
yeah.
Damn right, there's fucking recoil.
He gets pushed back. He's being held by both Rita and Faria because he's being pushed back.
And that's still not enough.
And his arm goes up, carving this giant line in the volcano until it hits the sky, and we see a magical symbol for a second as it fades away. But with that, the 7 Knights have killed Germain, head of Physis. Physis is defeated. Mm-hmm. It's time for a triumphant return home.
And then and this is where you realize, oh wait, how many episodes do we have left?
We have 3 episodes left. So after they're on the retreat, Germain, with the last little bit of golden hourglass or silver hourglass dust he had saved for himself, reforms his body, and it's like, I will make that man the son of destruction. But then his goddess, the one giving him prophecies, tells him, "No, you won't," and turns him to crystal, just like what happened with Claire. But as for who,
y'all thought that was it. Nope.
y'all want to know who his goddess was, people? Y'all want to know? Because I fucking called it. It's such a burden being fucking right. But since episode fucking 2, I have said that bitch Sophia is fucking suspicious. That bitch is it. She's the bad guy. And guess what?
Curse your sudden but inevitable
Betrayal! What? Betrayal! Betrayed me!
We said we were going to do the betrayal gag more than once. Never call me a liar.
No.
But these two guys, these two guys got to hear me say I was fucking right and I fucking called it for like a good 2 minutes.
Oh, we're beyond just that. Let me find the. Oh, I need. Yeah, he was doing this.
Fuck you! I was right. 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 Fuck.
Yeah, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it is with this revelation that we are then led to the post-credit scene, where on the return of the battle group to Grand Seed Academy, Gareth is there to arrest Nemo for being the one who did all the bad things.
Mm-hmm.
Basically.
That's a new one.
Hey, we were using that for Lupin Ranger vs. Bato Ranger for the longest time. That was I'm glad to dust that one off.
Yeah.
Lupat was a good series to use it on.
Lupat was fun.
But what you end up having with all this is essentially a kind of masterstroke. Germaine is eliminated, so the one person who knows her secret is gone. Up until this point, she's been manipulating Gareth by giving him parts of the story, even though the sole reason that the crystallization happened with Claire is because that book has the true nature of that book has a curse on it, where the more you know of what's going on, the more that curse is going to affect you.
Yeah,
and it's self-defense, but there's no reason at that point where, okay, it's just, if you know too much, you fucking die. Mm-hmm. But there's a reason for it, but that's covered in the end game.
Yeah. The other thing is that little stunt that Ellen pulled to freeze time. It takes a lot of materials and a lot of setup to do that, and she can't. And that's a big ass gamble.
That was the finisher.
Yeah,
that was like a one move fighting game. You hit that at the right time, it's an automatic win button.
Yep. Sophia was counting on that. In fact, she wanted to exhaust the Hero of Time's powers.
Not that one, Ellen.
And that way, there wasn't going to be any other problems with her plan.
Mm-hmm. And in the aftermath, Nemo is thrown in jail, and Faria ends up learning that his heroic spirit is genius. They referred to it as genius in the romanization that we had seen.
Well, the name is genius, which can be read as genius, genius, or any variation there between.
And I think I deserve some credit for my restraint, because I was so tempted to make a build joke and I didn't.
You should have.
Couldn't find the right timing.
Yeah, but prior to this point, they had been saying that Genius was the man who betrayed the Seven Knights and is the one who put the curse on the old library. Mm-hmm. So the fact that his heroic spirit is also that person is, in some people's minds, proof positive that he was always the traitor.
Mm-hmm. And
should I hit the doubt button at this time? Because I feel like we should probably hit it again. Fuck it, I'll press X.
Well, this creates a bit of division within the Seven Knights in the student council, because on one side you have Gales, and I believe Joe, who has the mindset is he is a traitor and he needs to be executed.
Well, Gareth has the mindset of he is a traitor that needs to be executed. Joe has the mind of Sophia can't be wrong because he's still crushing on her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, crushing. Also, I'm not gonna hit the zero punctuation button again, but tits.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's part team player, part boobs.
Yeah. Whereas, and in the same vein of all this, Faria, after listening to a conversation where Gales is tempted to just cut his head off then and there, but doesn't. Faria decides to find things out for herself. She asks her hero, Eunomia, for help, who reveals that she has a bit of the same curse that killed Claire, and if Faria learns the truth, she's going to suffer the same curse. Remember, knowledge of the truth activates that curse.
And by the way, knowing is not only half the battle; it's half your fucking death.
Mm-hmm.
G.I. Joe?
Yeah, but if y'all want to sing it, I'm not. It's like the G.I. Joe thing's more on the positive side. This is the fuck you, I'm dead variety.
Yeah.
This is why I said G.I. Joe with a question mark.
I know. This is me being not picking up on the subtle again.
A pedant like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
But she finds the same place where Claire had found the original book, and ends up finding the truth, and afterwards going to the house that Nemo was apparently born in,
and finding the corpse of the real Nemo.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's also revealed during this episode and this last arc that Nemo was originally a homunculus that was fully monstrous, didn't look human, and was attacked, constantly being attacked by the rest of Physis. The entire reason the monsters were at that city where he was found was because they were following him to try and recapture and or kill him, ending with them also killing everybody else there. And he gets covered in rubble and is about to be crushed, and the real Nemo stops a falling wall, and the homunculus Nemo is like, but why? I'm a monster. And the real Nemo's like, even you deserve to live.
And the thing that was driving him is the fact that with a lot of the other homunculi like him, they were Physis was conducting some sort of experiment or some sort of bonding, and we see one failed attempt that results in Explodey.
And a failed attempt that they basically say, number 8 was no good, flush him down the drain.
Mm-hmm.
And Nemo is like, I'm not going to end up like that. And this is when Genius first started talking to him. Was like, are you going to live? Then, forge your
fucking
will.
Live, kid. Jesus.
Get the
fuck up and live, bitch.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing he said throughout the series. Forge your will.
Yeah.
If you want a real comparison here, people, this is a weird case of Cloud being the voice in Zach's head instead of Zach being the voice in Cloud.
Yeah,
that's why we ended up laughing so much regarding Genius being voiced by Cloud Seiyu.
Yep, Takahiro Sakurai.
And here we have someone who is trying to live out the lives of two people.
Yep. And even in death, the real Nemo forgives him.
Mm-hmm. And in the aftermath of that, he took Nemo's appearance.
Yep. And Faria, of course, also finds a gemstone brooch that the real Nemo used to wear. At the same time, we have Nemo being pulled out of the prison into the Academy Coliseum, essentially, by Gareth, Joe, and Shirley. By Gareth and Joe specifically. And Shirley and Gildan show up with an imperial decree for a stay of execution. After Sophitia and the headmaster and a lot of the teachers have said that they will agree to his execution because he won't say anything.
Well,
And then
I think we should mention what Gildan was doing in the interim.
Oh yeah, bribing one of the teachers to help him out.
Because technically speaking, he's, even though he's a knight, he is the only person. He is one of the few people in the Seven Knights that has some political weight.
Yep, he's a prince of another country. Mm-hmm. And when they pull out the stay of execution, Sophitia pulls her full heel turn and says, "The decree was just too late."
Oh, I love that. She's like, but I'm so close to realizing the end of my plan, bitch.
Yep.
And then claiming that she would take responsibility, despite essentially saying, yeah, you have an imperial order to stay the execution, but I'm going to pretend I didn't see it.
I'm going to pretend you showed up after the execution was already done.
Or basically,
I'm going to pretend you did not say that.
Or if you want to go further,
I want him dead. I want his family dead. I want his house burnt to the ground. I want to go to the middle of the night. I want to piss on his ashes.
Yeah.
But Nemo, because of the fact that it's revealed to everyone that he killed the original Nemo, took his form and his memories. He believes that he should be executed, but Faria had other ideas.
Faria, now before we actually came back to the Colosseum, there was a part where Faria was attacked by Rada, and Rada was accusing her of Faro following her. Faria was like, "No, I'm here looking for Nemo's past," and she's like, "That's a likely story," and they fight for a while. But then Faria comes crashing out of the skies to stop Joe and Gareth from executing Nemo. Turns to Nemo, tells him that she knows about the life she took and the life he took and the memories he stole, and shows him the pendant and gives it to him. And she's like, "Fine, yeah, those are the things I did. Go ahead and execute me. I'd be glad if it was you." And then she turns around. She's like, "No, I came here to stop them from killing you." He's like, "Wait, what?"
Wait, I'm supposed to die. I'm legally allowed to kill me. Oh, man.
And so Faria fends off, Joe and Gareth for a while, and then Nemo and Faria escape onto Faria's airship, because she has a personal airship, where Shirley and Gildan and Joe and Gareth all see that Rada is on the airship as well, as does Ellen.
Because, remember, Ellen likes to go with the flow.
Which...
Of time.
Yes. Thank you. I was going to say that it should be obvious why she says that now, but you just had to explain the joke.
Well, the thing is that the whole go with the flow has a darker side that I think we should cover.
Yeah. Ellen is able to see the future. She can see the future all the way to a point where she says she can't see beyond, which is implied to either be the end of the world or something even darker. She tells a little bit of a story about how she rejected being friends with a child she knew because she knew the child was going to die soon, and they did. and how no matter how much she tried, she couldn't make Faria go away, so she started to just go along with the flow. But that the future she sees is a bleak one unless very specific things happen. And we get this really cool set piece of different futures all flashing before her. Like there was one where Nemo and Faria were getting married, and everybody else was there throwing flowers and celebrating, and even Rada was there in a bridesmaid's dress that made her look, frankly, adorable.
Yeah.
But she also had the biggest stone. She also had the biggest stone face of the whole thing.
She was no selling how hot she looked.
She was doing golf clap.
She was golf clapping, but if y'all paid a tiny bit of attention, you'd all see she was blushing. She's a tsundere. She's a classic tsundere.
Yeah.
Yup.
And so Ellen, we now get the idea that there's somewhere her future vision can't see, and we don't know what that means.
But, and I think we ended up doing freeze frames of those possible visions that she was seeing, and there's not only the implication of Faria and Nemo getting hitched, but also Joe teaching some younger academy students and a knight who we don't recognize.
We later looked him up.
Knight's in the game.
Yeah, he's a character from the game. We looked him up later.
Yeah.
But the whole point, I think the point of those flashes was the implication of a possible future where Joe is teaching the next generation.
Yes.
And it's for me that kind of concept is interesting because a lot of times when we see people who are some sort of fortune teller or someone who can see the future, they usually have a melancholic attitude about it. About the fact that the future that they see is going to happen, so there's no point in trying to change it. Whereas Ellen is taking very specific steps to fuck with the future that she sees.
Yeah, she wants to make a new future if she can.
And I find that to be a refreshing shift. But it's there. But at this point, we end up learning that Sophia is, as we mentioned before, the true runner of Physis. She knew, and she's been playing the long game. Because her goal is to weaken the seal in the old library. Since that book is holding back the power of the god of destruction.
And if you guys are wondering, wait, where did the crystals come from then? Well, self-defense. If you know too much, it's like, the way to close the book and wreck the defense, that could be bad. That's what the crystallization is there. It's literally there to make sure you don't fuck shit up.
Because the original seal that Genius made was faulty. And although a lot of people had this belief that Genius was a traitor, they let it remain that way so that people wouldn't go into the old library.
A case of redundant systems.
They figured if people just looked at him as a traitor and didn't know the real story, they wouldn't start getting curious and poking around in that place. But as things end up getting a heck of a lot worse. It's at this point that it's revealed that the book is referred to as the Book of Truth, or I think in the translation they call it the Book of Time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, this is where we get a lot of the real story, and as well as Sophitia's real motives. First off, Sophitia is a lot older than she looks because she was around during the time of the original Seven Knights,
and she's been moving from body to body ever since then. She started as a flat-chested little waif, and now she's here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Every time she changed bodies in the montage we got, they got bigger tits.
Literally, they grew over time.
Yep.
There are rings under those boobs. Yes, I made a tree boob joke. Shut up.
But we're not listening. We're not dealing with Treebeard.
But
tree boobs, tree boob. Never mind.
The Entwives that he always talks about.
I know. Never mind.
But the next part of the plan is the fact that since Nemo has Genius's spirit, he has the potential to replace the faulty seal on the Book of Time. So he needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
And and her trump card with trying to make him go is the fact that she had corrupted Gareth
and Joe.
Yep, and Joe was more. It was more of seducing Joe. With Gareth, it was full on corruption.
Well, they were both corrupted. She eventually led both of them to getting possessed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But because of this, Nemo ends up getting stabbed in the back, quite literally, or more impaled in the back by Gareth, which technically should have killed him. Except this is the reason why you have to account for every particular possibility in your grand master plan. Because one little thing you don't account for can backfire on you, and in this case, it's assuming that Ellen ran through all of her power with that little stunt.
Yeah, basically assuming all the spell slots are done.
Because one of the Chekhov's gun was setting that silver hourglass in that Stonehenge-like area. That was her second trump card. Saving a little bit of the energy just in case.
Mm-hmm. She also saved a little bit of silver hourglass sand to make a giant array out of.
Mm-hmm. And using that to bring Nemo back to life.
Yep, which technically reseals the book a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But it's at this point that while Nemo is dying that he meets the spirit of the original, and as mentioned before, this is where it's revealed that he's forgiven. Knowing that what he had done was motivated by desperation and survival, not evil.
Mm-hmm. He also tells him, fight for the reason he found to live.
Mm-hmm.
Which, in this case, is Faria.
Yeah. But while that does leave Ellen on the brink of death because again, messing with time is an expensive process.
Yep, and she had already exhausted the buildup that she had from most of her life.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the addition of the small amount of silver hourglass dust she had and her own life force, she was able to do one more time spell.
Yeah. Which should have killed her, but surely gives her a potion made out of her blood, which turns her into a vampire.
I don't think it was a potion made out of her blood. She just bit her finger and made her drink from it.
Yeah.
And turns her into a vampire. And it's implied here, as Ellen lays dying on the floor, that this is the reason she couldn't see any further into the future. That she was destined to die here. But here, I don't remember the exact name of this paradox, but it is one of my favorite paradoxes having to do with time travel, precognition, predestiny, etc. It's that by the very act of viewing the future, you change it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't recall. I know there's a name for it, but I don't recall it either. Sometimes it manifests as you ended up seeing the future, but you don't see the full picture.
Mm-hmm.
However, Sophitia decides to pull one last desperation play and absorbs the Book of Time inside of her.
Basically, she decides, fuck you, I'm still winning, fuckers. Nah.
Mm-hmm.
And the nah becomes, well...
We ended up getting Akira flashbacks due to this.
Akira,
yeah,
Bubblegum Crisis, Tokyo 2040.
She ate the book and literally became a giant Akira monstrosity kaiju, literally pregnant with the apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
May as well throw the final day in Parasite Eve while we're at it.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
But. And not only is this creating even more physis than we've previously seen, but also turning everything black, as if it wants to quite literally reduce the world into darkness.
And it's here that the Seven Knights are all fighting against her, because Gildon has successfully pulled Joe from his possession. And the only one missing is Gareth, because, well, Sophitia...
Gareth went bye-bye, Egon. Where have you... what about you?
Yep. And they are fighting her to try and stop her from, well, pulling off the apocalypse. And she's going full yandere, because she loved Genius, which was Maddie's own I fucking knew it.
Yeah, this is literally,
point.
At first I'm like, when she was like, no, the bitch is crazy because she was involved in a love triangle and she was the losing end of it. I'm like, no, this is not just the apocalypse. This is the apocalypse because I can't have my man. Jerry.
That, and she believed that by using her plan that she could save everyone from the goddess of destruction. Except that her plan was basically one giant suicide pact.
Yep, kill everybody and you save everybody.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to Jonestown everybody.
Yep.
I'd also like to point out that this is actually a good point for the statement "Hell hath no fury like that of a woman scorned."
Yeah, this is like the ultimate woman scorned.
Yeah.
Y'all thought Stephanie McMahon Helmsley as Bridezilla was bad. Holy shit!
But I don't think she accounted for the fact that trying to kill Gales using darkness isn't exactly the smartest idea.
Yeah, Gareth gets back up and helps them break through a barrier to get to the final battle. Yeah. And this is where we hear his hero for the first and only time. Dark Ruler Chris. As I said, voiced by a man famous for breaking microphones, Toshiyuki Morikawa, the famous voice of D-Boy from Tekkaman Blade. But more importantly and more poignantly, Toshiyuki Morikawa, Japanese voice of Sephiroth.
Yeah.
So in this game, Cloud and Sephiroth are on the same side. They're even both emo darkness fighters.
And folks, best believe both of these marks pop for that.
It's almost that is either a case of accidental genius or some brilliant casting.
I think both.
Yeah, a little bit of both on that one.
I will admit that I'd love to have been a fly on the wall if somebody was like, wait, we have Cloud and Sephiroth on this.
Nice.
Yeah.
But we do get it. We do get one last shot with Legus Breaker that dispels a lot of the power that Sophitia had. Redoing the re-strengthening the seal and turning Sophitia back into a more human-esque form.
We say esque because that ugliness left a lot of scars.
Mm-hmm. The downside is that both Nemo and Faria basically exhausted themselves completely.
Yep. They've all exhausted themselves completely, and Sophitia is like, I still have a little bit left, and starts readying the oncoming apocalypse, and Nemo abandons his humanity. Even goes back to his homunculus form to fight and defeat Sophitia and seal away this dark power once and for all. Warned by both Genius and, once again, the spirit of the real Nemo, that if he does so, he'll lose all his powers. Everything. His power as a homunculus, his power as a successor, everything.
He'll basically be turned into a full-on human.
A normal person.
Which, for him, at this point, win.
Yeah. He ends up doing it anyways and creates a new Book of Time. However, the cost of it is Genius's spirit is expended, and as we mentioned before, Nemo is not just taking on a human appearance, but is full on human.
Yeah,
a real boy, if you will.
Yeah.
We do end up as everything kind of clears up. We do end up having a jump forward into the epilogue, where first a lot of the damage to the academy has been repaired. Rita is now a new student. Gareth made a recovery, but Faria left as student council and joined Nemo to find a way to completely destroy the book of time without causing the apocalypse, and so that nobody can try and pull this same shit again. And that's how this story ends. And I know some people were talking about whether or not there would be a season 2. It's like, you couldn't really do a season 2 with this.
No,
this one I don't think it was ever planned for, and second off, it wouldn't work.
Yeah, because the simple question of how do you escalate? Yeah, that's tough. It's rough. Good luck with that.
Mm-hmm. But with all of that in mind, I think it is time for us to give our final verdicts.
I think there's a little bit more that can be discussed here beyond the plot.
Yeah.
I think the two things that I really wanted to bring up here, one, the art style, it has a very distinct and unique identity, as we previously described, with that Victorian Magipunk feel. But the actual quality of that art and animation is top notch. It is beautiful in every sense of the word. Even, the fucking gut punch of Claire's death was still animated beautifully, as evidenced by the fact that we were also fucking horrified. Especially when she started crying blood. That part was like, what the fuck? But more than that, the music. The OST for this particular show is phenomenal. The music fits the moods as you would expect them to, and it's bombastic when it needs to be, subdued when it needs to be, and always, always, always serves a good purpose. We constantly talk in every one of these about audio identity. Constantly. And it is very clear that the OST has a distinct identity that you would go, that's Seven Nights, anytime you heard it. Mm-hmm. And so they knocked that out of the park. There's not much more I can say about that. Obviously, all of the voice actors are tried true A-listers. Mm-hmm. So that's not an issue. Also, I see that while we were actually watching, guys, Seven Nights finally got an English translation, but
no,
we were already, but we were already we were already into it. So,
what was the who's on the cast? Just out of curiosity, now.
So, for the actual 5 heroes that are from the game, Rachel is voiced by Stephanie Shea, Spike is Doug Erholtz, Todd Haberkorn for Jave, and Matthew Mercer for Dark Ruler Chris.
Hey, that's a familiar name. Also, good call.
Yep.
Good call.
And there's I'm not seeing a lot of the other names listed in Wikipedia yet. I'm sure I could go and find them on IMDb, but with that, it's also another A-list cast in English.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're
we at the time were watching,
which is a good thing.
We're watching the sub version.
Because the dub version hadn't come out yet until it hit High Dive, I think it was.
Yep, that's what it says. Yep.
But this all-star cast definitely knocked it out of the park. Like we already mentioned with Genius and Chris, we have Cloud and Sephiroth. With Nemo, we have, of course, as I said, Deku. But some other names that people may recognize, or maybe their roles, if I bring some of them up. Faria is voiced by Hibiku Yamamura, who has done things like Arpeggio of Blue Steel as Haruna, Robot Girl Z as Belgus V5, Stardust Crusaders as Nuke Saku's female face, Eva Turbine in Iron-Blooded Orphans, Izanami in Noragami Aragoto, so that's always a good one. Noriko Sonozaki in Kisniver, so we'll hear her in another one of these at some point.
Nice.
Mizuchi in Beastars. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, for Ellen, we have a very recognized name, Kana Hanazawa, I'm sure. Yep. I'm sure people recognize that name. And if not, Mikan from To Love Ru. I don't know if I have to say more.
I'd also like to point out that that Dragon Guardian Jave is voiced by Rika Matsumoto.
Yep. And for those who are not familiar with Rika Matsumoto, Rick in Tekkaman Blade, one of the Haros in Victory Gundam. I mean, Jim Hawking in Outlaw Star, obviously.
She's been and Satoshi for fucking years.
Mm-hmm.
I.e. Ash Ketchum for the rest of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's.
By the way, where do you find this stuff? I'm looking for the rest of the cast.
Some of it's on Wikipedia and some of it's on IMDb.
Mm.
Yep. And then, of course, Gareth was someone that I knew. Like, I had heard Yuichiro Umehara before. Things like the Goblin Slayer in Goblin Slayer. Mm-hmm. So, Gareth is Goblin Slayer. He's also Zoltan from Gundam Narrative. Now, something I do need to note, we were watching fan subs, and some of the names got a little interesting, such as Ellen is also sometimes called Aaron in the translation. Gareth is sometimes called Gales in the translation, because both can be read that way. We already talked about Genius, however you want to call him. But beyond that, the cast is just divine. It's a fantastic group. It's just a fantastic gathering. Even Vanessa, who gets very few lines as well, she played Nanoha in Magical Girl Nanoha. She plays Jibril in No Game No Life. She plays Remilia Scarlet in the Toho Cannonball game. She's she's Suzuha Amane in Steins Gate. So there's, like I said, all-star cast, lots of good actors. And all of this came together along with what I think the best point is, this is a great adaptation of a source material. They couldn't have adapted what Seven Knights had for its own story and its own world and come up with anything really useful for a 12-episode anime.
Yeah, the problem with if they tried to adapt straight from the games, the problem is there's way too much lore for that.
Yeah, you'd have dense info dumps everywhere, and that's not always conducive. Instead, they did what we've always told TTRPG developers they should probably be doing. They took these ideas as a sandbox and built in it. They took the ideas and motifs and made their own thing with it, and that served them better than anything else could have. They made a fantastic story with it. And so I think with those last points, we can move into Final Judgment. So, ladies and gentlemen of the Parliament, good brothers present here today, I call upon you. First, Brother Matty, tell me now, Seven Knights Revolution, be it weeb or be it scrub?
This could have easily been a cheap, easy cash in. We could have called the other word that I'm about the opposite word I'm going to say, actually. And could have easily been one of those throwaway situations that, nothing happened, whatever, right? Effort was put into it. Especially considering the mobile game is just a mobile game and they no story at all. They literally said, okay, here's our IP. Go nuts. And go nuts they did. This was fun. Like, not just because I'm riffing with my boys over here. No, straight up, this was fun. And I don't know if there's an awards thing, like an Emmy for anime or whatever in Japan, but if it doesn't win awards, fine. It doesn't have to. I don't think they were setting out to win awards in the first place. They were just setting out to do something good. Thumbs up on this one. This was fun. This is popcorn anime at its best. This is weeb easily.
All right, and thus Brother Matty has voted for weeb. Monk, give me your verdict.
As mentioned, this is one that there was a bit of trepidation. For somebody like me who has a massive soft spot for fantasy anime, having it present what I needed from a proper fantasy series is certainly there. It is a bit of a surprise with how much darker it ends up being in contrast to its early appearances. We're not going full Monica level shifts, but that's certainly there. the only thing that I could potentially criticize is maybe there were too many reveals in the last 3 episodes. But the reason why I'm not going to give it too much guff for that is the fact that none of the reveals were ass pulls. They weren't contrived, and they didn't create more problems. In fact, this is the reason why I signposted Seven Nights when we were talking about plot twists last night on Geek Watch.
Yeah.
And this is definitely a case of handling those sort of reveals proper. Were some of them a bit obvious? Yeah, but only if you're being genre savvy. I only think that they overplayed their hand when it came to reveals once, and that was with Mina. And to be fair, I'm not entirely sure how many people in Japan have read Dracula. So I can cut some slack on that front.
Vampire Hunter D, though.
I guess a better way to put it is sometimes writers will put in names because they sound cool.
Yep.
Hell, I remember reading Chunrang Zhurjun, or Legend of the Serious Wars, and the main character's name is Orang Yun. The name is taken from the story Orang Yun and his wife. It has nothing to do with that story. He just liked the name. But the point is that there's a bit of a precedent for that kind of thing. I will admit that the visual design hits my particular high notes, as we mentioned before. And while the Sakuga is not on the same level of, say, Trigger-style Sakuga, it's still really damn good. And like we mentioned before, even though there was some CG, it didn't piss me off, which is saying something, because I have a very hostile reaction to CG in anime.
Mm-hmm.
I know somebody's gonna yell B-stars way in the back. B-stars is the exception. More often than not with CG anime, you have frame rate problems, or worse. And for me, the big problem is that it ends up taking me out of it. I wasn't taken out of it. The smart way to use that kind of CG is to use it for bigger things like vehicles,
or for distant things.
Mm-hmm. Things that aren't going to take you out of it, and it can help add to the feel when it comes to monsters. And truth be told, I think if anybody's going to try and adapt a story from a video game IP, something like this is the right way to do it. You take a few elements, but you do your own thing with it, because a video game and an anime are two different types of storytelling. You can't do the exact same thing. So don't try and slavishly adapting is never a good thing, and this was the best scenario for it. Given what I read from a lot of the lore on the Seven Nights wiki, I don't necessarily want a season 2, but I wouldn't be opposed to another season that tells another story.
Maybe not a sequel season, but a sequel series, maybe?
Yes. Especially with that tease. It's probably not gonna come to that, but let a guy dream, damn it. But overall, this long diatribe aside, it's getting a full-on weeb.
All right, and from the Monk and Maddie, we now have 2 weebs. As for myself, you've already heard me gush on and on about the end notes that I thought we were missing. I do want to make one point about the Sakuga in the very final fight. We got all of the body horror and more. We got some fantastic set pieces on top of that. And, of course, everything else in between. The fantastic story adapted from a source that could have run them into the ground. The fantastic art and animation. The magnificent audio work. I think it's no doubt from me that for once, I'm not the loquacious one. It's Weeb. And with 3 votes of Weeb and 0 for Scrub, the Parliament finds that 7 Nights Revolution Hero Succession be Weeb.
And we can definitely put this in the halls, especially since for people like Zan and myself, this is prime research material. Because it's not like we didn't conjure up the idea of a hero school or anything.
No, not.
Careful, bud. Careful.
It's not like I commissioned Bundle of Strings to do some uniform art for me.
You ate Great Lakes what?
No.
Don't worry, that'll get its time again later on. But for now, I have the wheel in front of me, so let's see what we'll be tackling next time.
Wheel of Morality, turn, turn, turn. Show us the lesson that we should learn.
And the moral is...
Astra lost in space.
Oh.
So, in a few weeks, please look forward to that. But until then...
Nice.
On behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay